Before a woman allows herself to fall deeply for a man, she evaluates him through a series of subconscious emotional tests that most men never even recognize are happening. This is not a conscious checklist that she writes down or deliberately thinks through. It happens instinctively, quietly, and emotionally through observation, pattern recognition, and repeated behavioral analysis over time. She watches how you respond to pressure, how you handle uncertainty, and how your emotional state shifts when things become unpredictable. These tests are not games designed to manipulate or confuse you. They are deeply rooted psychological protection mechanisms that evolved to filter for long-term emotional safety and stability. According to evolutionary psychology research published by David Buss at the University of Texas, women evolved mate selection strategies that prioritize emotional stability, resource consistency, and behavioral predictability because these traits historically correlated with long-term survival and offspring protection. When she tests you, she's not playing, she's protecting her. Emotional investment before committing it fully. The first and most fundamental test is emotional stability. She needs to know whether your emotional state remains grounded when external circumstances change. Can you handle a stressful situation without losing composure? Can you disagree with her respectfully without becoming defensive, aggressive, or passive-aggressive? Can you receive criticism without emotionally collapsing? Research from the American Psychological Association consistently shows that emotional regulation is one of the strongest predictors of relationship satisfaction and longevity. If you cannot regulate your own emotions, she will not feel safe regulating hers around you. Emotional volatility is one of the fastest attraction killers in modern dating. When a man reacts impulsively to minor provocations, shifts mood based on external validation, or becomes visibly anxious when her energy fluctuates, he communicates instability. According to Dr. John Gottman's decades-long relationship research at the Gottman Institute, emotional flooding, where one partner becomes overwhelmed and reactive, is one of the primary predictors of relationship failure. Stability does not mean suppressing emotions. It means experiencing them without being controlled by them. She might test this by challenging your opinion on something minor. She might tease you slightly to see if you become insecure. She might create a small moment of tension to observe whether you escalate or remain composed. These micro moments reveal more about your character than any grand romantic gesture ever could. Because grand gestures can be performed, but consistent emotional stability cannot be faked over time. The second test she runs is confidence under uncertainty. Modern dating is inherently uncertain. Messages are delayed. Plans shift. Energy fluctuates. She becomes slightly distant after a great conversation. She takes longer to reply without explanation. And in that silence, your true confidence is revealed. Do you spiral internally? Do you start overanalyzing her behavior? Do you craft multiple draft messages trying to say the perfect thing? Or do you continue living your life, trusting the process and remaining emotionally centered regardless of temporary ambiguity? Confidence is not loud proclamations or performative dominance. True confidence is quiet, consistent, and internally sourced. According to research published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, individuals with secure attachment styles demonstrate stable self-worth regardless of external feedback. This internal consistency is precisely what women evaluate when they observe your behavior during uncertain moments. If your mood crashes when she doesn't reply within an hour, you have communicated that your emotional stability depends on her constant participation. And that dependency creates pressure. Pressure is one of the most dangerous dynamics in early attraction. When she senses that her behavior directly controls your emotional state, she feels burdened rather than desired. Research from Dr. Amir Levine's work on adult attachment, published in the internationally recognized book, Attached, shows that anxious attachment behaviors, constant checking, reassurance-seeking, emotional flooding, consistently reduce perceived attractiveness and create relational imbalance. Confidence under uncertainty means trusting yourself enough to remain grounded when answers are not immediately available. The third test she evaluates is boundaries. This is perhaps the most misunderstood element in male dating psychology. Most men believe that being accommodating, flexible, and endlessly agreeable makes them attractive. But research consistently shows the opposite. According to Dr. Robert Glover's framework in No More Mr. Nice Guy, Chronic people-pleasing is rooted in approval-seeking behavior driven by fear of rejection. When a man says yes to everything, tolerates disrespect, and never communicates his standards, he signals weakness disguised as kindness. Boundaries communicate self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation of respect from others. When she cancels last minute without apology or explanation, how you respond reveals your internal value system. If you immediately say everything is fine and accommodate without question, you communicate that her time is more valuable than yours. If you calmly acknowledge the change and set expectations for future interactions, you communicate clarity and self-worth. Research in interpersonal psychology published by the AP consistently links boundary-setting ability with higher relationship satisfaction and mutual respect. She may test your boundaries subtly. She might arrive late. She might make a slightly dismissive comment. She might push against your preferences to see if you hold firm or fold immediately. Not because she wants to dominate you, but because she wants to verify that you have internal structure. According to Sadala et al.'s 1987 research on dominance and sexual attraction, assertiveness, not aggression, consistently increases perceived mate desirability. A man without boundaries cannot provide emotional safety because his identity shifts based on external approval. The fourth test is purpose. Does your life have direction? Are you building something meaningful outside of the relationship? Or has she become the center of your emotional universe within weeks of meeting her? A man without purpose gravitates toward emotional dependency because he has no anchor beyond the relationship. Research from Maslow's hierarchy of needs suggests that self-actualization, the pursuit of personal growth and meaningful contribution, creates psychological stability that naturally attracts others. Purpose signals emotional independence. When a man has career goals, creative projects, physical discipline, intellectual curiosity, and social connections, he does not cling to any single source of validation. He invites a woman into his life rather than making her his life. That distinction fundamentally changes relationship dynamics. According to Esther Perel's research on desire and autonomy, attraction thrives when both partners maintain individual identity. When one partner sacrifices all personal direction for the relationship, desire diminishes because there is nothing left to be attracted to beyond compliance. In Russian culture specifically, masculine purpose carries deep cultural weight. Direction, ambition, and decisiveness are not just attractive traits, they are foundational expectations. A man who demonstrates structured purpose communicates leadership capacity, long-term stability, and emotional maturity. Without purpose, emotional energy becomes entirely relationship dependent, which creates smothering dynamics that suffocate attraction over time. The fifth test is abundance mindset. This is frequently misunderstood as dating multiple women simultaneously. That is not what abundance mindset means. Abundance mindset means approaching life and relationships from a position of emotional sufficiency rather than emotional scarcity. When you behave as if losing her would destroy your sense of self, you communicate that your emotional survival depends on her presence. That level of dependency creates invisible pressure that makes closeness feel heavy, instead of light. Desperation repels because it transfers emotional responsibility onto her shoulders. When she feels that she is responsible for your happiness, stability, and sense of worth, the relationship dynamic shifts from mutual attraction to emotional caretaking. Research from the social exchange theory framework shows that relationships thrive when perceived investment and reward remain balanced. When one partner invests disproportionate emotional weight, the other experiences obligation instead of desire. Here is where most men fundamentally misunderstand these dynamics. They believe that passing these tests requires performing specific behaviors or memorizing tactical responses. But tests are not passed through performance. They are passed through consistency over time. When your behavior does not dramatically shift based on her mood, her availability, or her level of enthusiasm, you communicate stability. When your standards remain intact even when you genuinely like someone, you communicate self-respect. When your life continues progressing regardless of romantic uncertainty, you communicate purpose. Falling deeply for someone requires profound trust. And trust is never built through words, promises, or declarations. Trust is built through repeated emotional evidence accumulated over time. Each time you remain calm under stress, you deposit evidence of stability. Each time you maintain boundaries without hostility, you deposit evidence of self-respect. Each time you act from authentic conviction instead of approval-seeking fear, you deposit evidence of character. Women test because emotional investment is expensive psychologically. Attachment increases vulnerability exponentially, and vulnerability without safety creates anxiety. These tests are not traps designed to eliminate you. They are filters designed to identify whether emotional depth with you will feel safe or threatening. Understanding this distinction changes your entire approach to dating, because you stop resisting tests and start recognizing them as opportunities to demonstrate authentic strength. Your responsibility is not to memorize responses or perform confidence artificially. Your responsibility is to develop genuine internal stability, clear personal boundaries, define life purpose, and emotional sufficiency that does not depend on any single external source. When these qualities are authentically integrated into your identity, you do not need to pass anything because your natural behavior consistently communicates everything she needs to feel. The man who naturally passes these tests does not calculate his responses strategically. He does not analyze her behavior obsessively. He does not adjust his personality to match her expectations. He simply lives with clarity, purpose, emotional discipline, and self-respect. And those qualities naturally communicate trustworthiness without requiring verbal confirmation. When she realizes that your confidence does not evaporate during uncertainty, that your boundaries do not dissolve under emotional pressure, that your life has meaningful direction beyond romance, and that your emotional state is internally regulated, rather than externally dependent, that is precisely the moment when attraction transforms from curiosity into deep emotional respect. And respect is not just the foundation of lasting attraction, it is the foundation of lasting love.